Hi everyone, it's Kelly from Kelly's Bead Boutique. So today we're going to do some macrame. I absolutely love doing macrame. It's one of those things that you can kind of just get into that rhythm and just kind of do really easily. I make it look a whole lot harder in this video because it's not easy to do macrame on camera. Anyway, I'm going to make some earrings because you don't really see too many macrame earrings out there, and I think you're going to really enjoy these ones. I know everybody that I've shown them to has absolutely loved them, and they're going to be some of my favorites to wear. So if you want to see what I'm making today, come and join me. Okay, so to make our edgy glamour earrings, I have 1 meter of Irish wax linen. Now, if you do buy a kit, you will get 2 meters, and you want to make sure you take that 2 meter piece and you cut it in half. I'm only using 1 meter for demonstration purposes, so please make sure if you do buy a kit, you take the 2 meter piece that you have and you fold it in half and you cut that in half. I'm also going to be using some 11/aught Miyuki seed beads. I have one of these tiara cast crimpable ends, although we're not going to be crimping it today. I have ear wires. I only have one because I've already made up the other earring and I just have one left at home here. I also have some of this teeny tiny rhinestone cup chain. I think this is maybe around 3 millimeters. And I'm going to be using some super new glue today. You could use Loctite, maybe the E6000 might work, but I just want something that's going to hold quick and really hard. And I find that this super new glue dries really clear and really hard and super fast, which is what I want on this particular project. One of the things that I almost forgot to bring to the table here today was a little bit of our faux suede. So I'll show you how we incorporate that too. And for tools today, we're going to be using a pair of scissors. I've got some chain nose pliers. I have a pair of flat nose pliers, and we are going to be using a clipboard to do the macrame. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to take my scissors and just kind of cut the ends off and just make them a nice sharp corner. It just makes it easier to get through the seed beads. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 18 of these seed beads and put them on one side. And then I'm going to take 18 and put them on the other. Now, not all seed beads are made equally. You shouldn't have any problems getting these over the end of the Irish wax linen now that we've given it a little trim. If you do have any problems, you can sometimes just sort of pull the ends together. That will help. We will give you plenty of everything you need. So if one of the beads doesn't go over, just put it off to the side and just start with another one, and that should work. But we will supply you with enough of everything you need. So I'm going to put 18 of these on one side and 18 on the other, and I will be right back. All right, so now you can see that I've got 18 seed beads on one side of the Irish wax linen, and I've got 18 seed beads on the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a little knot on the end of this. The Irish wax linen is pretty sticky, and so they generally do stay on, but sometimes, all things are not the same. And sometimes it can be a little bit thinner, or maybe it doesn't have as much wax, and you could end up with them kind of flipping off the end there. So that will just help protect it. So now we're going to take our vegan suede and we're going to put it into our clipboard. Now I have an extra long piece here. You will get about 9 inches in your kit. So all you're going to do is take that and cut it in half. And that's going to give you the right amount, but it's sometimes easier to show you with a larger piece than a little teeny tiny piece. So I'm just going to take some and put it underneath. Now, if you don't have a clipboard, you could take the end and tape it onto your work surface, or if you have maybe one of those black jewelry boards that you'll see me use sometimes, you could maybe clip it down to the inside of that so that you can tilt this towards you. You'll find macrame is a lot easier when you're sort of tilting it towards you versus flat down. I have to do this flat for demonstration purposes. Macrame, I always take my board and I sort of flip it like this on my lap. I find it a whole lot easier, but then you guys wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. So just make sure you've got one end secured. You'll find it a whole lot easier. So now what you want to do is you want to find the center point of the Irish wax linen. So I just match up one end and then I find the middle. And I'm going to take that middle and I'm going to just place it underneath our vegan suede. And I just sort of pull it up. It doesn't need to be really close because we've got lots here. And it just makes it harder for you guys to see if I do it too close. So now macrame is just simply a series of P's and Q's. And so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So you're going to take your piece on the right and you're going to go over top of your vegan suede here. So you're creating sort of the rounded part of the P. Now we're going to take the one on the left and it's going to go over top. So you can see if I pull all of this out of the side, it kind of looks like a bit like a P. So now what I have to do is I have to take this end and it needs to come underneath all of this and come up through the hole of the P. So what I do is I kind of grab hold of it and then I take my thumb and just sort of push it all up through there. Now you see how I'm holding on to the vegan suede? It makes it a whole lot easier when this is not kind of going all over the place. So always have control of the piece that you're working on. Now it's really important to try and keep this centered because you don't want to have a whole lot on one side versus the other. So what I'm going to do before I tighten that up, I won't be able to show you on camera, but I'm just going to kind of make sure, I'm pulling it off camera there to make sure that the ends are fairly equal. Okay, so the first part here, you want to make sure when you're tightening it up, you see how it's got like a little, it looks like a little knot? You'll see here, and I'll make sure to zoom in on this, that you have this little bump on the other side. What the little bump is that tells you exactly the side that you're going to start on next. And I always find that a really good thing to know, because if you have to leave this for a minute and come back and you go, okay, well, where was I? You're always going to start on the side where the bump is. So I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and snug, and I'm not going to pull so tight that I change the shape of the suede, because if I pull too tight, it's going to round this out. So I just want to make sure that that's on there nice and secure. So now I'm going to pull up one of my beads on each side. And this is the hardest part of this whole pair of earrings, is getting this first little bit started. After that, it's just the same rhythmic kind of movement. I love macrame. It's just, I just find it really cathartic and kind of nice to just sort of, rhythmically do. So now we're going to do our Q. So now we're going to do sort of a reverse. It kind of, you go over top like that. So like a backwards P, and then we're going to take that and go over top. And then this piece has to go underneath all of those and come out that hole. So I just pick this up, grab hold of that underneath, and then I hold the whole thing so it doesn't go all over the place. And then I'm going to tighten this up. Now, before I tighten it up though, I'm going to get right to the point of just about there. I'm going to now take my little piece of chain and I'm going to pop it under there. Now, I find this really, really hard to do face on like that. So I'm going to pop it in this way so that I can actually see what I'm doing, and to make it a little bit easier so that this demo doesn't go awry. So what you have to do is just kind of get it up there, and then I just sort of tighten it up. Now, like I said, this is the hardest part because this chain is really teeny tiny. So once you get it going, it is totally fine, but it's just getting it into that position. So I kind of have to jockey it around, and you can see it's flipped over on the side there. So what I like to do is undo it, pull it up in my finger so that I can actually see what I'm doing. Get that sort of situated on the top, and that's exactly where we want it, right on the top. And now I'm going to tighten that up. So what I've got here now is, just move that over with my thumbnail. I've got a seed bead on either side, and I've got my chain going down the middle, which is exactly what I want. All right, so now I'm going to take this and place it back down in there. Now you could actually, in theory, do this in your hand from now on, but I still need to do it for demonstration purposes. What will happen when it's laying flat like this is this always ends up flopping off on the side, and it always looks like it's going to kind of go wrong, but it all works out. You can actually manipulate this fairly easily. So now we're going to do our P again. So I'm going to take one bead and I'm going to pull it up. So the second step is a little different than that very first one that we did, in that I'm pulling the bead up now. So I'm going to pull my bead up on each side, and then I'm going to make my P. But now I have to make it over top of all of this stuff here. So I'm going to make my P, pull the tail over top. Always make sure your tail is coming over top, or else your macrame won't work. Now I'm going to take that tail and go underneath and pull it through and tighten that up. Now what I want to do is take this chain, and don't worry about the end here so much. What I'm going to do is pull this up, and I'm going to come right underneath the second. So I already used that first link in between, so now I'm going to go in between the second and the third one. So I'm going to tighten that up inside that area, and you will find that you're pulling this chain out, and it kind of, it's awkward sometimes, but once you get your groove on with this, it's a whole lot easier. Okay, so tighten this up. And again, I'm going to pull it out so that you can see what I'm doing because it just makes it easier for me and for you. So I'm just going to pull that, kind of pull that nice and tight. And it's just, I'm not like reefing on it. I'm just kind of getting it into position and pulling on both sides. And you can see on the back how it's starting to look. And so as I'm building this, I want to make sure that I'm situating the beads where I want them to go. I want them to be equally spaced, and I want the chain to be laying nice and flat and in the center. So now I have to create my P. So I'll just pop that in there so you can see a little bit easier. Now again, when I make this myself, I don't do all this in and out and in and out. I sort of start it on here, but it's tilted and it's just a whole lot easier. So it looks a little awkward when I'm doing it like this, but it's really hard to show you how to do this otherwise. Okay, so now I'm going to do my Q. So I want to take that and go over top. Make sure I take my piece on the right and go over the Q that I just made. And then we're going to go underneath all of that. So now we're going to have another one right inside that same one that I just did. So you're always going to have two in each little slot there. So just kind of pull that tight. And honestly, this is not as hard as it's looking. It's just trying to get it all on camera and make it look nice and neat and organized, which is really, really hard with these little teeny tiny parts because I know that you probably can't see hardly anything here. So I'm hoping that you can actually see that. So now you can, I'll try and get close to the camera. You can see that we've got two macrames right in that little spot there. So I'll show you one more time. Okay. So I'll place my chain in the middle. Always make sure you slide up your bead before you start. I just get it positioned right next to my faux suede. And now we're going to do a macrame. So I'm going to make my P, bring this tail over top, and that's the tail that goes underneath and up through the hole there. So now I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to make sure that I go over top of the next slot, so between the 3 and the 4 on there. So I just have to pull this chain up. One of the things that I like to keep when I'm doing this is a pair of tweezers, and I just find it easier to kind of pop that up there with the tweezers. So now we're going to go between the 3 and the 4. So I just take this middle piece and situate it over top of the 3 and the 4 there, and then tighten it up. Again, I'm just going to pop it out to show you. So when it's all kind of uneven, this is the time I use my thumbnails and kind of move it around and just kind of get everything going where I want. So now you can see we've got that nicely macrameed in there, and I need to do the other side now. So a complete macrame is 2 steps. It's not just the one side. If I was just to do let all P's down this would start to spiral. So you have to make sure that you do it the correct way. So now I'm going to do my Q. So I make the sort of backwards P there and go over top, and that tail goes underneath and up through that hole. There we go, up through that hole. And I'm going to tighten this all up. And I'm going to go back into that hole that I just put this through. I'm just going to move that out of the way. So just go right into that same one that you just did and make it nice and tight. So I'll just pull this out so you can see. So this is what we've got now. We've got 3 seed beads on one side and 3 seed beads on the other, and we've got 3 pieces of chain. So you're going to have 1 and 1 going down each side. So if you've got a piece of chain in the middle, you'll have a seed bead on either side. So I'm going to continue that all the way down, and I'm going to actually have another piece here that I've already done up because this takes quite a while to do. So I'm going to show you how to complete this piece. So here's the piece that I've been working on, and you can see how much easier it is to see when I've done a fair amount there. So I'm just about finished here. So I'm not going to use the board because it just kind of gets in the way for the demonstration here, and I am continually taking it out. It's really hard to work under a camera with a flat board this way. It's just really, really tough. So we'll try and do it without. So I'm going to do another P, and so I'll bring that over top and up through the center there and get that nice and snug in there. And then I'll finish the other side there. So now I'll do my Q. So bring my tail around, always make sure you go over top and then bring that up through. When I macrame, I just kind of do it in my hands like this. I find it a whole lot easier. It is easier to start this on a board, definitely. You'll find that using a board or taping it down will make it easier. And now I just get it into that piece, and there we go. So that went in between there. So I want to make sure that I'm doing one on the other side of this last one too. So I'll bring up my last seed bead. And then I'll do my P. And now we don't have chain in the way or anything, so it makes it a whole lot easier. So just bring that around and tighten it up. That chain can get really annoying when you're trying to get your macrame in the right spot. So you just kind of have to get into a groove. I'm going to do my Q, so bring that over top like that, and then up through the hole. I'll show you how I do it in my hands, just so you can see that I don't put my piece down like that. I take it, I go like that, I pull it right underneath so I don't have all those steps in the way. I just find that that's really kind of annoying to have to do so many different steps. So that's the way that I do it. I just do it right in my hand like that. Okay. So there we are. We're all nice and finished there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to make sure it's all nice and tight and everything's situated where I want. And now I'm just going to tie a really tight knot in the back side. So I'm just going to tie like I'm tying my shoes, and I'm going to tighten that up. And I want to get it really tight. So I get it right where I want it, and then I pull really tight. The one thing about this Irish wax linen is it grabs onto itself, so it makes the perfect knots. So I'm just going to make one more knot. And the second one, I'm really going to pull tight on top of there. The first one I didn't want to pull too tight because I didn't want to misshape the vegan suede. But this one, because it's now just going to be pushing against that, I can pull it really, really tight, and that flattens that down. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim that really close to that knot. And it's not going to go anywhere. And if you were worried about it, I mean, if you're selling these or something like that or giving them away and you are concerned about the knot, you can take a bit of the glue and just put a little tiny dab of the glue right on there. So now what I want to do is I want to trim this down. So I'm going to start about here to start off with. It's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little tiny bit longer than 1/4 inch. I'm just going to trim that down. Now we're going to take our flat nose pliers, and I want these because they've got a nice broad flat surface on there. And I'm going to kind of squish this down, and I'm also going to squish down that little bit of Irish wax linen on the end. I kind of want that smushed down a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're not close to your seed beads because you don't want to crush your seed beads, which can happen really easily. So you'll find that this is probably going to be really sticky. You can see as I'm pulling off my pliers, it's sticking. It's because the Irish wax linen is so sticky. And what I'm trying to do is just kind of crush that a bit so that it flattens it down so that it'll go inside here a little bit easier. So I just want to flatten this down just a few times, and I just kind of check it out and make sure it's a little bit flatter. And then we're going to fold this in half, and what I want to do is match up the 2 crystals on the end, and then I'm going to take it and put it inside here and see where I need to trim. And that's probably going to do me pretty good. I'm going to trim just a tiny little bit off. You need enough that it's going to hold inside, but I want to get this as close to the crystals as I can. So you don't want to cut too close on here. So always dry fit it before you start gluing. So that's what I want. I want to be able to push that up so that when you can't see anything here, you've just got literally a bead and then your little end cap here. So that's going to be perfect. So now I'm going to have a piece of paper towel, which is a miracle because I never remember to bring my paper towel. And now you have to be careful. You want to make sure that you don't do everything we did and then walk away and come back, because what will happen is your vegan suede will start to puff up again. So then you'll have to come back in here and give that some smushes down, smush being the technical term, of course, so that it's nice and flat. And when we put this glue on, what can happen is it can make that swell back up. So we have to be pretty quick when we're doing this to make sure we can get it inside there. So I'm taking a little drop and putting it on one side, of each side of the suede, and I am not putting very much. It's almost more like a half a drop. You do not need very much of this glue. It is awesome. So what I want to do is fold that in half and then get that inside there as quickly as I can. And I just line those up. And now what I'm doing is pushing a little bit of force on either side. So I'll see if I can bring that up to the camera so that you can see how close I have it. And I want to make sure no glue is squirting out. If it is, just quickly use your piece of paper towel and wipe away any extra glue. But I'm going to push it, I'm pushing towards each hand there. So I've got some tension on here. And I'm going to hold this for probably a good 30 seconds to make sure that it's got a really nice tight fit on there. So I'm going to come back in a few minutes and I'm going to show you how to finish off the rest of the earring. All right, so now we're just going to add the ear wire, and then I'm going to show you my completed piece and the other ones that I've got. So now you can decide which side that you like the best. I like this texture, so I want to have that facing down. And I'm going to just do this up. Now you're probably saying, well, why didn't you just use your flat nose pliers? Because I find it hard to get into these little tiny corners when I'm trying to open and close these ear wires. So I just find it a bit easier than using my flat nose pliers. So now let me show you the other completed earrings. All right, so now when you have your earring, it's going to look something like that. So now you're just going to have to shape it a little bit. So I just kind of open it up. I usually stick my finger sort of inside and just kind of round it up a little bit. And that's exactly what you want it to look like. So here's the 3 different colors that will be available in the kits. We have this brown Picasso with the tan vegan suede. And I always love the Picasso colors. I think that's just a nice muted one. And then of course my favorite, we have the green. I absolutely love this one. It's a really soft seafoam green. I think that one is really, really pretty mixed with the silver. And then for all you purple lovers, because I'm getting lots of people saying, do purple. So I did purple, okay? So I've got a really pretty lavender with sort of a nice purpley bead running down there. So I love these ones. I think they're really kind of fun. Something a little different. There's not very many macrame earrings out there. And I think it's kind of a neat idea to do macrame on a pair of earrings. And when I showed these to all of my staff, they all went, oh my gosh, those ones are really, really fun. So I knew I was onto something that I thought everybody would really like. Now you might end up with a little bit of residual wax on here from your fingers. So you can take a piece of paper towel or something and just kind of wipe along the crystals, just if you think that they look a little murky or anything like that. But I think these ones are really fun, something a little different, another technique to add to your arsenal. Again, macrame is one of my favorite things to do. So I hope you really like this tutorial. It's not as hard as what it looks. It's just really kind of hard to show you and make it look really, really easy. And I probably didn't do a very good job of that because I do find macrame so simple that I find it actually hard to teach. It's kind of one of those quirky things. But if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I do love to hear from everybody. As always, this will be available in kit form. You just go down into the description box just right below the video. It'll take you to a link that will take you directly to my fully secure website, and you can pick out the color that you really like the best. Or like some people have been doing, buying all 3. And I really do appreciate each person that has placed an order in the last couple of weeks. Holy smokes, you guys have been keeping us hopping, and I really do appreciate it so much. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.